So today we're going to be working very similar kind of stuff to what we did on Friday. We're going to find missing sides, but this time we're going to get square roots that aren't perfect squares all the time, which means we're going to have to estimate, which is why everybody needs to have their red book out, because there is a number line there. Does everybody see the number line? Kind of towards the bottom. It's right underneath number 4. We're going to be using this number line to do the problems in the notes. Okay, so everybody needs to be looking at this thing right here, right now. Okay, so first, what we're going to look at, example 1, is just some practice with this. So example 1 wants me to find to the nearest integer the value of the square root of 10. Okay? So if I am looking for the square root of 10, let's look at the number line. Okay. Looking at the top part of the number line, and this should be reviewed because we did do it earlier in the year. Okay, just at this top part of the number line is a list of all of the perfect squares and the integers of the answer when we take the square root of those. So for example, the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 16 is 4. And so on, all the way to the square root of 289, which is 17. Okay, so in example 1, we need to find the square root of 10. So we are looking at the top part here because this is where all the square roots are listed. Which one is closest to 10? The square root of 9, right? And the square root of 9 is 3. So rounded to the nearest integer, the square root of 10 is 3. That's all they want us to do. So we're just estimating here. Okay? Does that make sense? Let's look at the second one, the square root of 38. Okay, the square root of 38 is closest to what on the number line? What do you see? The square root of 36, which is 6. So estimated to the nearest integer, the square root of 38 is 6. Okay, the third one asks us to find the square root, or estimate the square root of 24. Do that by yourselves really quick. Keep your answer to yourself. What'd you get? 5. Good. Make sense? This is pretty much what we're going to be doing, except we are going to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side. So let's look at example 2 now. First one we need to find is x equals the square root of 99. Looking at your number line, the square root of 99 is closest to what? 10. Good. So we can estimate the square root of 99 to the nearest integer, which would be 10. Okay. Now, for the second two, hold on. For the second two, I have x squared equals 17. Have I solved for x yet? No. What do I have to do? We don't have anything to plug in. We have to do the opposite of the squared, which is taking the square root. So take the square root of both sides here. Now, we started calling this something separate yesterday, or on Friday. The square root of x squared is what? Just x, right? Because the square root and the square cancel. So x equals the square root of 17. That's what we have here. Rounded to the nearest integer, what does that give me? Square root of 17 is really close to the square root of 16, which is 4. Now, we're not exactly equal to this, right? We're just estimating. Okay. What do the third one by yourselves? Okay. What do I need to do first here? Anthony, what do I need to do first?
You need to do the opposite
Do the opposite of square, which is taking the? Good, square root. Everybody, what is the square root of x squared? X, good. Equals square root of 220. Okay, so that is about equal to what? Square root of 220 is closest to what on the number line? Oh, I'm hearing two different answers. Let's look at it. Okay, I have, hold on guys, we'll look at it. Okay, I have square root of 220 that I'm looking for. Now, square root of 220 is in between square root of 196 and square root of 225. What is the square root of 220 closest to? 196 or 225? Okay, let's think about it, ladies and gentlemen. What is 220 minus 196? 4. Becomes a 1, and this becomes a 11, right? 24 points away. Okay, what about 225 minus 220? It's 5 away. So which one is it closest to? 196 or 225? It's closer to 225. It's only 5 points away from 225, and it's 24 away from 196. So the square root of 220 is about equal to what? 15. Okay, so this is about equal to 15. We round up on that one. Actually, apply this to the Pythagorean theorem. What we need to do first is find that missing side. Pythagorean theorem, what is it? Let's write it at the top. Who can tell me the Pythagorean theorem? Leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. Good. Okay, so make sure you write that at the top. That's our Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so somebody, for example, 3, give me a leg. 3, so that's 3 squared plus, what's another leg? Plus 6 squared equals, what's the hypotenuse? X equals x squared. Good. What is 3 squared? 9. Plus 6 squared is? What's 6 squared, ladies and gentlemen? 36, thank you. Equals x squared. Now what do I do? Add them. 9 plus 36 gives me 40. What? 45 equals x squared. Okay, and then last step? Square root. Good. Square root of x squared is x equals square root of 45. Look at your number line. Square root of 45 is closest to what? Square root of 36 or square root of 49? Square root of 49, which is about equal to 7. Okay, so we are just putting what x is about equal to. Remember, the squiggly lines, equal signs, means that it's not quite equal. It means about equal to. So it's not exactly equal, right? So we can't put our regular equal signs. So we put the squiggly ones to say it's about equal to. Number 4, what do I need to do first? Darren, what do I need to do first? I take the legs and I plug them into the Pythagorean theorem. Noah, what's one of the legs? You are correct. One of the legs is 8. So when we plug that in, that's 8 squared plus, Maria, what's the other leg?
5.
Good. 5 squared equals, Julian, what's the hypotenuse? X. Good job. So we write x squared. Okay. What do I do next, Genevieve? I do the squares. Everybody, what is 8 squared? 64 plus, what's 5 squared? 25 equals x squared. Okay, Stephen, what's my next step? I add them, good. So that gives me 64 plus 25, 89 equals x squared. And next step, Paula, what's my next step? Good, I take the square root of both sides. Everybody, square root of x squared is x equals, okay, square root of 89. What is that closest to? 81 or 100? 81. So the square root of 89 is about equal to what? Square root of 81, which is 9. I want you to do example 5 on your own. Now be careful because, give me a leg, somebody. 7 is a leg. What's the other leg? X. And what's the hypotenuse? 13. Okay, so plug all that stuff in. Estimate x to the nearest integer for me, please. What do I do first? Alana, what do I do first? Take the legs and the hypotenuse and plug them in. So what did you get?
I got x squared plus 49 equals 13.
X squared plus 7 squared equals 13 squared.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because you got a step ahead of us. Next step, Tristan, next step.
Did you say the x squared?
I do the squares, right? So x squared plus 49 equals, did anybody memorize 13 squared yet? 169, good. Okay, next step. Lily, what's my next step? I'm sorry? Good, thank you. I could barely hear you because some people were talking. Okay, so we subtract 49 from both sides, so that gives me x squared equals 169 minus 49, 120, right? Okay. What do I do next? Brian, what do I do next? I take the square root of both sides. So, everybody, square root of x squared is x equals square root of 120. The square root of 120, looking at my number line, is about equal to what? 11. So our second leg is about equal to 11. It's really like 11 point, I don't know, 3, 4, whatever, I don't know. Okay?